Hello and welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur TV. And I am super excited today because I have a fantastic guest. It's about the wedding industry. Have you ever thought about how someone gets into wedding and events planning? Well, we have got the lowdown today from a wonderful lady called Ruth. Ruth, I am so delighted.
Thank you.
And so basically, you run this wonderful wedding events company.
Yeah.
And, you were saying to me earlier about how you sort of started, because it sort of you just didn't say, oh, I'm just going to start doing a wedding events company. It sort of transitioned a bit. What was you doing before?
I'd had a mixture of jobs, but right before I was actually in interior design, which was a great lead into it. But prior to that, I had made wedding dresses for 20 years. I taught piano and I'd actually been in accounts. So very, very diverse set of skills in my early learning and just different jobs I'd done. But then when I was in interior design, that was very much a similar job to what I'm doing now. It taught me a lot that I needed to know. So I actually made the switch from that into doing what I do now, which is great.
Because interior design, you've got to be really good at the planning element, haven't you?
It was dealing with suppliers, it was dealing with mood boards, colours, it was budget, all the skills really that you need for this job. The only thing I say now, looking back, and this is so true, that in interior design, you don't have to get it specifically for that one day. You've got a bit more leeway than you got in my job. You can't just say, oh, sorry, your wedding can't happen today. We can do it tomorrow. Whereas in interior design, you could kind of say, oh, this sofa's going to turn up tomorrow instead. So there is a big difference in that way. But other than that, the skills were so similar. And I think when I was in that job, I knew I wanted to do this. And I realized it was a good transition from that.
Was you always like this as a child, though? What did you want to do from your childhood? What was your dream job back then?
Oh, definitely wasn't this. This didn't even cross my mind at all. I think I wanted to be a nurse, actually. I don't know why. I just like the idea of the uniform, I think. I'm not quite sure, which I didn't end up doing at all. And then when I went into an accounts, it wasn't really me. I was always quite good with figures, which is a good thing now. And I did it for, I suppose, probably 6 years, something like that. And it was fine, but it really wasn't me. I had a creative side that wasn't getting tapped into at all. But I kind of fell into accounts because I was going to be an accountant. And then I just said, no, that's really not me. And then I ended up making wedding dresses and teaching piano, which was actually, they were all skills that kind of honed me for this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I was in the wedding world. So therefore I got to understand a lot from brides and what they were looking for and what they wanted, even though I was the person making their dress. And I loved that, actually. It was a long, and it worked really well for me while my family were growing up. And teaching piano means I'm just neurotic about great music. I just love great music. To this day, it's top for me is to find the best music we can find for the events that I do. But when I was offered a job as an interior design project manager, I thought, I'm going to love that. And I really did enjoy it. I really did. But moved on to this.
And that's it. You've made all these beautiful wedding gowns. And I suppose, did you see like the delight on the bride's face and thinking, now I could maybe go one stage further now and do the whole sort of wedding plan package. How did you transition sort of from doing that interior design to then actually thinking, well, yes, I can actually do this?
Well, I think two things happened. And everyone says this, and I know they do, but it is true in my case. I did my daughter's wedding, my eldest daughter. I did her wedding in 2008. And as I did it, I thought, my goodness, I love this job. It was so similar to what I was already doing, but it was just a little bit different. And it tapped into everything I'd done for years. So that was really, I think, what lit the spark in me was I want to do this actually as a job. But I was quite late to the party. I was quite old, really, when that happened. And I kind of thought, well, I can't do that. I don't know how to start. And then I guess I'd looked at everything that I had learned through the interior design company and thought, actually, I can. I've just got to somehow hold my nose and jump, basically, and try and get that first event to happen for me. So that was really it. And I think also when I was making wedding dresses, you get to hear of a lot of the stress that the brides are going through, and you kind of like, gosh, they need somebody to help them, you know? So actually, to be perfectly honest, the very first event I did was somebody who I was making their wedding dress for them, and they kind of needed help. And I took a jump and offered voluntarily to manage their wedding.
That's interesting.
It was kind of good because I got some brilliant photos from that first event. Didn't make any money out of it at all, but it was just completely voluntary help. It taught me a lot in what I needed to be doing. And it meant I got some photos to build a very basic website to actually make that first little step into what I wanted to be doing. And then I left the interior design, literally held my nose, jumped and went for it.
So what was the biggest obstacle you faced then at that point in time? What was your biggest
I
obstacle?
think it was people taking me seriously. I think even my closest friends went, "What are you doing that for? Why?" I think they thought, well, actually, you're fine. You've got a good job. Why? So that was part of it. And getting people to really trust you that you can do the job. So there's quite a few little hurdles like that, I think, where maybe people initially don't take you seriously, or maybe they think you just think it's a glamorous job and actually, you're going into it for the wrong reasons. I don't know. When I look back now, I think I did have to work really hard in those early stages to get that trust.
I was going to say, was it like convincing people? Because I know that we had a chat earlier and you said that, sometimes you found it men were the hardest people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For you to convince.
I think they just sort of, well, what do you know about it? Why should I give you my money to do a job that actually we can probably do ourselves? Oh, gosh, it's so much easier now when you realize that you've got a portfolio behind you, you've got experience. When you have a meeting now that
Yeah.
you need this, you need that. And if they question you, you have every reason to tell them why they need that particular thing done, and I think the men take me much more seriously now.
Well, I'm very, very glad to hear about that. But so how does a typical work day look for you?
Right. Well, I get up pretty early. I'm an early riser. I have two things that are really important to me in my life, actually. As a Christian, I always start the day with a bit of quiet time with God. That's me. I always thank him for my blessings. I ask for his wisdom and guidance through the day. And I ask for his peace and calm in whatever situation comes my way. And that just is me. That sets me up perfectly for the day. The other thing I always do is a yoga routine every morning. And I beat myself up at the gym a couple of times a week as well to keep fit, because my job is a very physical job as well. So that's the first thing I always do. And then after breakfast, I will beat my assistant to the office if possible, but she's a really early bird and she always gets there, very keen bean. And in the winter, the job's very different to the summer, actually. The winter's very much admin, budgets, site visits in the most foul weather, mud, blowing a wild thing in the middle of the mountains or whatever. And you have to, at that point, envisage a beautiful event in the summer sun, which can be quite challenging. But it's very much admin, getting new work, meeting clients, getting them into the studio to have a look at what we do, and they can make their choices as to what they want. And then about now, i.e. April, May, whatever, you hit the floor running, and it's a very different game then, right through till the autumn time. Ours in particular is quite seasonal because we're less venue based. A lot of our work is in the middle of nowhere. We create the most amazing parties and weddings in the middle of nowhere. Venue ones that we do are much more across the season. We do some great Christmas parties as well, and corporate and that kind of thing, which is lovely. So having done that, it's then office, out on site, more office, out on site, it's that kind of thing.
You never
really.
stop.
No. And it's often a long day, and it's great, and I love it. And I've got a great team that I work with. So I don't think there's an average day in answer to your question.
No.
Not really.
I think anybody going into the industry, I would imagine that there's going to be some long hours involved.
Oh gosh, when we're doing events, it's insane. Literally you can be doing a 20-hour day and you don't notice it. You just keep going. And it's only when you stop, you go, oh my goodness, I've been here that long, and we've been on our feet.
And it's having that personal time then that you've taken for yourself. That's like the wellness part.
It's lovely to have that time in the morning because it just sets you up for the day. And I don't even notice how hard I'm working through the day. It's only when I collapse into bed at night, I kind of go, oh, that's been a long one.
Relief.
Yeah.
What sort of skills do you rely on daily to get you through? What are your core skills for doing this job?
Super organisation. I have lots of spreadsheets, lists. We have really good, there's great software packages now, project management packages that I rely on for my team, that I literally put in their different jobs for the day, and they are getting quite good at looking at it and checking out what I wanted them without me having to keep on their case. They can kind of see it. So that's, yeah, it's all to do with organisation, really.
It's like military precision, I would
is.
almost think
It
of.
is. I don't like it if I don't feel I'm fully organised over a particular job. I'm not happy until I'm in that place where I can kind of go, yeah, okay, I can tick all those boxes now. We're ready. Yeah, you just want it to happen then.
And do you think as well, when you're showing that air of organisation, that this then makes the bride and groom for the wedding events in particular, like, chill?
I think it really does. Even from the feedback you get, they indicate that the calm they feel by just having us there and having us in charge. And when we turn up on well, not the day, but the day before, 2 days before, yeah, I had one bride last year say, oh, it's like having mission control, having you sat at your laptop. And I was actually there a whole week for that one because it was such a big event. But it literally was. It was great. I could manage all the suppliers as they came on, and she said, I just love it. It's just, I know you're in control, which is great. So I think it did really make her feel much more calm. Every time I'd turn up in the morning, it was like, oh, it's okay now. She'll manage it.
Ruth will do it.
Yeah. And it's not just me, it's my team as well. I mean, I've got such a great team that works.
You're almost needing a cape, Ruth, I think sometimes. What's been your greatest teacher in your business? What do you think has been a great learning curve?
I think probably experience, to be honest. The experiences, not just my experience, just certain things that have happened. Having said that, I have had great people help me. I've had a great financial advisor. I've had a great business manager that have maybe looked looking in from the outside. I mean, things that you get so engrossed in yourself, you don't see clearly.
Yeah.
It's really good for me to go and touch base with them if I've got a particular direction that I want to go in, and they can see from the outside and advise me. So that's actually been really good. But beyond that, every time we did an event, we would always sit down, have a coffee and go over the event, say, right, what could we have done better?
Yeah.
What went really well? What can we improve on? And that probably, especially in our early days, was our main teacher. And I kept all the books, actually. It's quite funny now when I look back 15 years. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's what we said about that event. And it's just second nature now. You don't even think about it. But back then, we made a point of writing that one thing down, and it's quite amusing to look back now and think, oh, were we making a note of those things back then? Now it's just natural to do those things. And
I think that's the important thing in business, isn't it? Because things can go wrong, but it's actually what you take from them, and and you just learn from those things, isn't it?
Completely. That's definitely been our biggest teacher in the events. We've added so much even to our back of house, like the way we run things, our service kit, stuff like that. We're like, oh, a better way of marking that is this, or without going into detail of what it is. Even now, every event, we're like, yeah, actually, just bought myself a lovely new steamer for tablecloths, well, that's way better than the one we had before. Just things like that, you realise that
makes life a little bit easier.
Yeah. It's made the job a little bit quicker.
Brookman Green has quickly established a reputation for producing high-end, elegant events. We produce celebrations ranging from beautiful weddings to private celebrations in your residence, on fields and lawns, or in venues of your choice. We focus on the timeless values of fairness, generosity and trust. For further information, please visit www.brookmangreen.co.uk.
What is your greatest pet peeve? I know there's people, when they answer this, they go, oh, I've got plenty. Go on, give us one.
Well, probably having to do the paperwork is a bit of a pain in the neck, if I'm honest. But although I was in accounts, and I do have a certain bit of an insane enjoyment in getting accounts up together, it's still a pain in the neck to have to do it. I think timekeeping is another big one. I get really annoyed by people that don't turn up on time and leave us all waiting. That's frustrating to me, because you can waste quarter of an hour, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Just going, where are they? Why are they not here? And I get it. Genuine things happen. But if it's just a constant turning up late and we're all waiting, going, well, we need to go, that's frustrating. Do
you think running a business has changed you as a person? Can you see that you've maybe changed a little bit?
I think my family would probably say it had. Whether it's for the best or not, I don't know. No, I think it has changed me, definitely. I definitely have less sleep now, work longer days. I think I was at the right stage of life, though. I mean, you might say that at the age of 50, it seemed really late to start, actually. But from my point of view, my children had grown to a point where they were independent. They were at university. They could kind of manage without me to a degree. And so it was a good time for me to do something that was right for me. But yeah, I did definitely rank up a little bit in the whole organisation stakes, and just the work ethic was a bit different from making wedding dresses and teaching piano and then leaving it all behind. When it's your own business, you almost don't leave it behind for a very long time.
It's your baby, isn't it?
It is, and you're prepared to work for nothing for a very long time to make it work. And when I look back, gosh, we worked hard. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. You have worked jolly, jolly hard.
Yeah.
But what is the most rewarding part?
Oh,
of your job?
just that. The reward of doing an event is awesome, really. When you put so much planning into something and you stand back and you look, it's just like, whoa. It's the most rewarding thing ever, is to see it all come together and to have clients that are really happy with what you've done and that trust you to do the job well and are so pleased when it's all over and it's all gone so well. And yeah, it's very rewarding. You don't have to do much else other than do the job really well. That's it.
What is a popular misconception about your industry? What do people say to you and you think, oh, that gets under my skin because it's not like that?
Well, I think probably it's that they don't think they need you. You know, there are times I get it. Some people love to do the job themselves, but there's still glaringly obvious things that get overlooked. You know, I have conversations the whole time with people who have loved it. They're going around with their file and their clipboard and they're fully in control of the wedding, but they don't actually see what's likely to happen around the corner if they don't do certain things correctly. And I had people say to me, well, why do we need somebody like you? You know, why? But when you're in it and you see the end result, you're kind of like, yeah, actually, you'd be well advised to have somebody like us, and then you can enjoy the day a lot more.
Oh, most definitely. And of course, you always get those bride and grooms or any event that you're doing, and then there's all of a sudden a trend comes on.
Yeah.
You know, how do you switch to that thinking, oh gosh, there's a new one.
Yeah.
Hey team.
Yeah.
We've got a new trend.
Yeah.
We need to sort this.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
So we've got another company that actually is Decor Hire, which is a sister company to us. And we work really well together because within that, we can make sure we've got the kit that supplies those trends. And that's the biggest challenge for that company, is to keep up with the trends. And what made me think of that is a big one at the moment about drapery. Drapery is a really big trend at the moment. And this year, I would say half a dozen of our events require drapery. So it's just fabric. And in a sense, for us, it was a no-brainer because I'd worked with fabrics for 20 years. We've got all the skills to hang them well and to make them look beautiful. So we moved into that. But we never did that 2 years ago. You know, it's like a new thing that's come along this year. Probably will be out again in another couple of years, you know, but we're
and
enjoying
then back
it.
in again.
Yeah. And that's happened with all sorts of colour schemes. You're like, well, where did that suddenly come from?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happens. It's something comes along and you become aware that actually that's going to be big for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And sure enough, everyone's asking for it, whether it's a colour, particular colour schemes come and go really noticeably. So we try to move with that, particularly by having our own decor hire company, as well as we can use our styling props from that to make a look work.
Has there ever been a moment where you just thought, I can't do this anymore, and you just felt like going, I'm walking away from it? And if so, what drove you to continue on?
I think the biggest challenge probably was COVID, it did make you reassess a little bit. Just because everything had to stop for those, 18 months at least. And the stress levels were so high. My job was to stay calm in between a very stressed bridal couple and very stressed suppliers, and try to be the calm voice between the two and find a way where we could go forward. And at that point, there were suppliers just going to the wall all around us. It was like, yeah, actually, it'd be quite nice to just forget it all and take the dog for a walk or something like that. But there was also part of you that wanted to be the person surviving at the end of it and make sure that when you came back even stronger. And actually, that's exactly what happened, because I'll never forget the wedding we did, the very first wedding we did after COVID. It was incredible. It was supposed to end at midnight and everyone was still partying at 4 a.m. It was a scorching hot day. It was absolutely beautiful. The whole event now makes me smile even now, because, yeah, everyone wanted to party. It was just like letting everyone loose after such a long time. And it made me think, no, we can do this. We can do it even better. So we did.
And you used that time then, obviously, when we was all sat indoors, not doing very much, scratching our heads. And did you sort of think, well, do you know what? I'm going to use this time in business to tweak things, to look at things?
Yeah, well, it was kind of that time that made us start the other business app, our Noble Decor Hire, because we thought, we've got a barnload of stuff, actually, that Brookman Green is using.
Yeah.
But why don't we hire it out to other people? But at that point, finance wasn't really there to do it, but it was the thought that we wanted to do it. So as soon as we were able to, that really came off the back of that, which is good. And that's proved to be a good thing, although it's still in its only second year of business, that side of things. But it makes sense to do that. So that was one big step we made. Beyond that, I think it was just using that time to tidy up all your processes, tidy up your photos, tidy up your laptop. When you're in an event, the last thing that happens is you file your photos properly.
Yeah.
You don't file. So it's a good time to go through it and actually kind of reevaluate where you were, what you still needed to keep, what you could get rid of, and get ready to go on again. And it worked. It was a good time like that. Yeah.
Now, I know you are a very tight-knit, well-oiled machine, a great team. But there's just some people or suppliers that let you down. How do you deal with them people? And how do you say, right, adios, time to go?
Yeah. I mean, my actual team are fantastic and I've not had to get rid of anyone. There's been a couple of our part-timers that waitress that you have once and you don't have back again. But when it comes to suppliers, I guess it's quite easy, because actually if you use that supplier for that one particular event and they don't come up to the standard you want, you just don't ever ask them back again to another event. So it's not hard, because it's all kind of on a freelance basis.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they'll come to you afterwards and say, oh, have you got any work for me? And you just have to very delicately say, oh, well, I think I'm sorted, thank you. Not really. But you never quite have to face that conversation as to why.
Yeah.
But I've got particular ones I'm thinking. I think probably caterers more than anything, to find the right caterer, because they all think they're brilliant, but they're not. And I have really I have some fantastic caterers that I work with, but my standards over food are pretty high, because it's such a big thing.
I'm glad to hear that, with me being sort of in food world. That sort of really makes my heart sing, because I tell you something, if you go to an event and the food sucks, that's it. Game over.
Yeah, absolutely.
They won't talk about, how nice the drapery was, how nice the furniture was, but that food was rubbish.
It's the one thing that people really, really notice is great food or bad food, And I've had a couple of caterers, and not just the food not being quite right, just the back of the kitchen. I'm just like, how can you work in this situation? I just can't be doing it at all.
Ruth, you sing to my heart. Exactly. We are like sisters.
Well, they don't last long. They're out. The ones I work with are just great, and they're organised and tidy and neat kitchen, and also not stressed. There's nothing worse than a chef that is just horrendous to work alongside. Some chefs get so strung up.
They do.
And rude to my team, and they will come out and I'm like, I'm not working with them again.
You tell them, Ruth, you're the boss.
Yeah. But that's kind of history, because we know who we want to work with now.
Yeah.
We're much better.
Now, a lot of people would consider maybe finance, when they get a goal, that's where they can say that their business has been successful. But there are many other things that makes a business successful.
Yeah.
What's been your key to success?
No, it's very definitely not finance, if I'm honest. It's it's to know that people believe in you to do a really good job. I think the best thing by far is when you do an event and there might be 150, 200 people there. And if you do the job well, someone there is going to come back to you and ask for repeat business. And I think it's just great now to look back and know that we've got the expertise. We've also got a lot of repeat business. It's really rewarding. Yes, obviously we need to make money. We all need to live. but it's so not what it's about. It's about just helping somebody create a beautiful event. And I had one client actually who came up to me after and she said, that's the first time I've ever felt like a guest at my own party, having you there. And I thought, that's such a great thing to say. Because she said, normally you're the one that's frantically running around trying to make sure that everyone's doing what they should be doing. And when she said that, I said, oh, that's really lovely, and that's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
And for my business now, yes, I love the fact we've got a great team. I love the fact I have a front of house team who love to work for us. They find it really a nice job to do, a bit different to maybe working behind a bar because it's a different place. They always look really smart in their uniform. It's a part of a team. So that actually, when I see them, I feel really proud of them. Not proud of myself particularly, although there is a pride in what we do. I just see them and I think, oh gosh, they look so great. Because they get out there, they're engaging, they look after the guests. And yeah, that's kind of, I'm not putting this into words very well at all, but it's not about the money. No. It's about creating a beautiful event that your clients are really happy with.
If somebody, say young here, is thinking of going into this industry, what piece of advice would you give them?
I think first and foremost, don't go into it because you just think it's glamorous. I think an awful lot of early wedding planners see the glamour. They see that it's all about them. They think it's all about them, and it so isn't. If you go into it thinking it's all about you, forget it. You've got to make it about your client. And I think that's probably a bit of a danger, is going into it because they see that, oh, you can get to travel the world and somebody else pays for it. You can get to wear nice clothes, or you get to be the boss or whatever. I was so different when I went into it because, I think I just went into it with a different mindset maybe. So I would definitely say, make sure you go into it prepared to work really hard.
Very.
Yeah, very, very. And I think there are, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, there's some fabulous wedding planners out there, but there are probably those that are quite happy to sit and just shout orders. And that's not what it's about, in my view. I think we are a team. We've got to make it happen as a team. So yeah, I think that would be probably one bit of advice.
And you're hands-on.
I am probably too hands-on from what people say, but that's me. I can't see somebody struggling to do a job and not get stuck in and help,
Yeah.
Whereas some people say, oh no, you shouldn't do that. You should just stand and look the part in the corner. But I'm afraid that's not me. It never will be. I'm always happy to help out if necessary.
Is there anything that you would have done in business differently if you could start over again?
I think there probably are. I might have started when I was younger.
Yeah.
Potentially. Because I think there's certain things you could have done more if you weren't the age I was. You probably would have done more destination weddings, travelled more, what have you. That said, there's so much scope for beautiful weddings in this country. I don't regret that at all, but I was probably not quite the right stage of life. The other thing is, when you start out in this business, there's probably two ways of going about it. One is you can get financial help and you can get your branding right and get everything perfect on paper visually before you make that jump. And you need financial backing for that. So that's probably one way forward. The way I chose wasn't that way. I didn't ask for any financial backing at all. It's one of those jobs you can almost do without financial backing because it's about building trust and it's about doing voluntary work, like I said earlier. But then my branding didn't probably come for about 3 years later, my proper branding. I felt like it was pushing a train with no wheels for 3 years, if I'm honest, because it would be just one event and then another event. And then 3 years later, it did start to take off. We paid for a gold-plated website. We did the branding and everything then. And probably if I did it again and I was a little bit younger, I would have got the branding right from the get-go and had a bit more financial backing to get just good kit in place rather than having to really, really work hard for those 3 years to get us looking professional, if that makes sense. I think I'd do that differently if I could again.
Is there anything, as you're quite a chill lady, I have to say, is there anything that keeps you up and awake at night at all?
I am a terror for waking up and not going back to sleep just because your brain just
always on the go,
immediately comes to life and you think of all the things that you've got to do that day. Yeah, I don't think there's anything desperate that keeps me awake specifically, but I go to sleep really well because I'm so shattered. But I do wake early, and I'm far better off to get up and just crack on really with my day. No, not really. There's been a couple of things probably in the career in business that have created challenges. Yeah, a couple that spring to mind where it's slightly outside the box, shall we say. Every event has a problem. There's no doubt about it. But there was one particular one where the people that were delivered the fridge trailer for this event had left it on freeze. And the guy who was actually getting married had taken the key off-site down to Devon. And we got back the next day, and you know what I'm going to say, opened the fridge trailer up and everything had exploded. It had all the champagne, everything had frozen. And that made us lose a bit of sleep, replacing all of that in time for the wedding. We had to travel far and wide all over the UK to get the same drink and to get it chilled in time. So things like that. Yeah, if anything's going to make you lose sleep, that does. But the one thing it's made sure is that I never let the key go off site again. When we said earlier about learning from things, never let the key go off site, and always neurotically check the temperature on the fridge trailer. But you don't expect things like that. You just don't think of that at the time. You assume, and it was one of those things.
So now I want to talk more about your business as itself and the things that you offer and the services you offer. This is your chance now, Ruth, to sell it to us, to sock it to us about, the wonderful things that you do from start to finish with a business, with other events, whether it be wedding or other events.
Okay. I don't know where to start.
You're so good, you see. You do everything.
Well, it's just so lovely being at this stage of life, looking back and realising that actually people are really trusting you to do a great job. And it is very different when you start out. I get that. But we did have some great breaks quite early on in our life, in our business life, which transformed us from, like I said earlier, really sort of struggling to suddenly starting to fly. And I think it's digging deep to that point. But probably the thing that makes us quite different is we're not just wedding planners. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, like I said earlier, to wedding planners, because there's fabulous ones out there. I do sometimes just plan the wedding using other suppliers, but we actually now, because we have our own front of house team, because we have a very good back of house team, and we have our Noble Decor hire for the decor side of it, it means we can actually rock up. I could do you a party next week. If you asked me today to do your party next week, I could do it because we have so much of our own stuff. And it means you've got less suppliers coming on site. You've got less delivery costs because we come with a van with so much stuff in it. So I think that probably puts us on a slightly different level, and people love to employ us because it's less faff, it's less disruption, if you like, because we just come in and do it from our own point of view. Whereas when you're in the wedding planning, it is slightly different because you have to work with caterer and their team. And I know early on I worked with a caterer and their team turned up and I just wasn't happy with the way they looked, the way they were. And it made me quite early on think I've got to handpick my own team to be front of house.
Yeah, and that's important.
It is. And I don't want to be uncomfortable through the whole event thinking, oh my goodness, I want to give them a bit of a kick, and bar managers, sometimes they can have teams that aren't, in my view, what they need to be. So that's why 2015, I started my own front of house team, and we haven't looked back since. Actually, we're known for them now, actually, because of their uniform, because they're engaging, they're super friendly, they're super helpful, they run a great bar, they, waitress, but also we've got great back of house that can manage the electrics, the water, and those things happen. You're always going to get something blow somewhere.
Yeah.
You're always going to get a water pipe burst or something.
Just when you don't need it.
Yeah. And it's just great having a couple of guys at the back who are porters, who do all the back of house stuff, but also are so savvy when it comes to repairing a quick water leak or checking out why the electrics have blown, what's been plugged in that shouldn't have been, or why the ring main isn't taking the power, whatever it is.
You've got to wear a lot of hats, Ruth.
Yeah, I'm bossy. I'm just super bossy.
You've got to wear a lot of hats. And I think that's what is quite remarkable. When you go to your website and it's absolutely astounding.
Thank
You know,
you.
some of these things that you have done. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, you're definitely one of the industry leaders. That is for sure
thank
in
you.
this
We
realm.
have done some amazing events, and we love a great challenge. I mean, the ones in the middle of the mountains where there's nothing are just awesome. We've got another one this summer, exactly the same, where you just go down a track and there's just nothing there.
Sounds like my dream scenario there.
Oh, you can make the best parties. You really
I
can.
mean, imagine now somebody's a bride there. What would you say to them? How long would it take, really? How long should they give themselves with event planning like that for a wedding? Is it a year? Is it 18 months? What would you suggest?
Most weddings probably 18 months, but not necessary. I mean, I have done wedding in 6 weeks.
Wow.
From the start to finish through necessity.
Yeah.
And because we have so much at our fingertips, we did the best wedding. And if you read her reviews of us, it was a 3-day wedding and we pulled it together in 6 weeks. And it was incredible, actually. And the bride was just blown away by it. So I just can't believe you achieved that in that time. But it was partly because I had the team to draw and I had all the decor that we needed that she loved. So as long as you can get yourself a decent marquee and you've got somewhere to put it, everything else slots into place really quickly. It's getting a great caterer, it's getting a great band.
And this is where planning,
planning,
prep, and everything else
and
comes
knowing
into play.
great people in the industry as well, you know, who that's the lovely thing is when you've worked with people, they will also bend over backwards for you, because if you treat your suppliers well, they want to respond by doing their absolute level best to help you out if you're up against it.
Right, Ruth. Well, I'm now going into my quick fire question round.
help.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be fun. This is the bit that I love.
Okay.
No surprise. What is your favourite wedding theme that you've done? Can you think of one? I know there's so many.
Probably woodland, actually. I quite like
Ooh.
woodland. It's quite in again this year as well, actually. 'Cause
Yeah.
the reason I say that is my very first event was a woodland wedding in teepees, the one that started me out, and it's come back round again and it's very in, and I'm doing another really great one this year. You can kind of be really creative with just natural stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of greenery, a bit like in a jungle.
What's your favourite bridal flower and colour?
I'm quite natural. I really love peonies and probably ivory and pastel pinks. I'm not, although that said, I do love colourful ones as well. There are lovely colourful ones, but I do really go for that. Big blousy peonies.
Your favourite wedding cake flavour? I have so
Lemon.
many.
Definitely lemon. No question. I'm not a chocolate person. I love lemon.
A lemon drizzle.
Yeah.
Would you like a good old traditional fruitcake there if it's moist or not?
Not me. I mean, I get it that it's lovely to have that for a wedding. And a lot of people do still have that as one of the layers. But no, for me, it would always be the lemon.
The most unusual wedding request that you could think of that really made you scratch your head and go, oh.
Oh, do you know, I really don't know. I think you've made me scratch my head over that one.
Is it the ones like in the mountains and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the challenges are, some of them are seriously challenging like that. Do you know, I really can't think of anything. So, I mean, we've done way out stuff. I just can't quite think what stumped me.
And you might get one next week now that I've just said
probably.
that.
And I'll think of you then.
What's your best first dance song?
There's one that stands in my mind that was just not what you'd expect at all. It was fantastic. It was Jungle Book. And no one expected it. And the bridal couple had done a fully choreographed dance to Bare Necessities. That's the one I'm trying to think of. It was incredible. And it makes me smile. I've got a video of it, and to this day. It was a few years ago now, and I don't think anyone's quite topped that. It was just so unexpected. And the bridal couple came out from the crowd, having gone off and got changed, and then just took the dance floor and did it. And it was not what anyone was expecting. It was, we all laughed a lot about that one. It's great. Yeah.
What's your favourite era and style of wedding dress?
Oh, I really like the more fitted dress rather than the big meringue type, I think. The last couple of dresses I made before I started this business up, one of them was for my daughter, and that was a really beautifully fitted lace overlay dress, and it just was so elegant on her. It looked lovely. And then the one that latterly I made when I started this business up was an appliqué lace one, which was also really, lovely. Just, yeah. So I think I like them very fitted bodice, but just with a little bit of shape on the skirt rather than really big.
Really big.
Yeah. And do you know what I'm not a great fan of? A lot of people that wear them very low slung. And I'm not a great fan. I think it's more elegant to have something just, it can be off the shoulder, but just not completely. I like a fitted bodice. It's really fitted nicely and boned.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I went to a
beautiful.
I went to a wedding once, and the bride was really, I mean, nearly everything was on show, and I just felt like,
No.
I think we're getting more to elegant and classy again.
So.
Do you think?
I think so, absolutely. And you see some that are beautiful cut that are just so much more elegant, in my view, than that. I think it's very easy to just kind of go an off the shoulder dress and not really care about actually what it looks like. And you can do so much better than that just by having a nice fit. So yeah, I like a really nice fitted bodice.
Well, Ruth, it's been an absolute, utter pleasure. I have learned so much. In fact, I feel like I could really be one of your team. I think I'll just leave this job and go elsewhere. But yeah, if you want to know more about Ruth and her company, Brookman Green, we are going to put all the details down in the bio. Check it out. Those photographs are astounding. They really, really are. And you are a credit.
Thank you.
To the industry. Someone who knows what they're doing. Ruth, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.